Hello everyone, welcome back to Everything Swift. Today we are going to tackle Leetcode question 36 titled Valid Sudoku. We are given a 2D array type character named board representing a Sudoku board, and we are supposed to find out whether this parameter board here is a valid Sudoku board so far, right? So for those who are not familiar with Sudoku, basically it's a classic board game which is usually a 9 by 9 grid, as we can see in this example here, right? There are other versions where it's 4 by 4 or different kinds of dimension, but the most popular one is 9 by 9 as shown in this example here, right? So the rules of Sudoku is essentially we are supposed to fill up these boxes here, these slots, with the number from 1 to 9, right? And each row and each column, as well as this box grid here, we can only use the value from 1 to 9 only once. So for example, if 5 has been used in this row, this first row here, 5 cannot exist anymore in any of these empty slots, right? 5 cannot be here, 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 or any remaining slots, right? Same with if 5 was here, this column, we cannot use 5 anymore. It's same thing with 6, 8, 4, 7 because it has already existed in this column. We cannot use 8 in this column. We cannot use 8 in this row. We cannot use 4 in this column. We cannot use 4 in this row. We cannot use 6 in this row. We cannot use 6 in this column. And the last condition is inside this particular 3 by 3 box here, we can only use numbers from 1 to 9, and it's the same thing, we cannot repeat it. So 5 has existed in this 3 by 3 box here. 5 cannot exist in anywhere else, right? It cannot exist here, 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 or here, right? Because it has already existed. It's already used once. Same with 3, 9, 8. We cannot fill it up with any of the empty spot because we have already used it, right? So that's the rule of Sudoku here, and how we're going to solve this is we're going to use a data structure that is perfect for identifying what is to identify what is unique, right? And the particular data structure that I'm referring to is called set in Swift, or in Java is probably called a hash set, right? So basically how it works is whatever value is inserted into a set or hash set, basically it will only contain a valid unique value. So for example, if our set is of type integer, there can never be a scenario of 1 1 1 1 1, right? If we put 1 first time and the second time we put 1 again, it's essentially going to be just 1 because it has already existed and is unique. So that's how the set data structure work, uh, is to help us out figure out what is unique. So just keep that in mind for future references for any other problems as well. If you need to identify something unique, set is probably a good data structure for you to consider using, right? So let's go ahead and see how we're going to use set to solve this problem. So first of all, I'm just going to check if board is empty. If it's empty, I'm going to return false, right? So this is just a tiny bit of optimizer here. If the board is empty, we don't need to do any processing further from this if statement below, right? Because there's nothing to process. So just to clarify, in the world of Leetcode, we probably will not encounter this scenario unless specified in the question. But in the real world scenario, practically it could potentially return us an empty board, and the most optimal solution is just to exit it as fast as possible, right? So it's just a habit of mine to exit it whenever we can. So the next thing is, as I mentioned, we're going to rely on the set data structure. So let's go set that up. I'm just going to call it a variable scene, which is type set string. Yeah, so it's just instantiating the set data structure. And since this is a 2D array, let's go ahead and perform the nested for loop. So this first for loop is to look through the rows of the board, and the second for loop is to look through the columns of the board, right? So since this is a character, I'm just going to convert it to string since our set is string. So let a current character of type string board I and j. Basically, this I and j is referring to the coordinates that is on the board, right? The intersection of row and column will give us the coordinate here, right? So again, just to recap, our task here is to figure out, like, given this board, is this a valid Sudoku board? That's our goal here, right? So for us to check whether it's valid, is basically we need to identify that the numbers that are seen here are appropriately placed, right? So it can only appear once in this row and in this column and in that particular 3 by 3 box, right? So basically, we can ignore all the empty slots here. If you look at this example here, the empty slots is represented by this period string symbol here. So for us to just check on the numerical values, we're just going to check if the current car is not equals to the period, right? So that should refer to all our numerical numbers. Now, let's go ahead and first check for the rows. I'm just going to create a row string here. So current character is seen at row I, right? And what we're going to do here is we check if we have seen it before, right? If seen does not contains row, so what do? Well, let's go and add it inside here, right? Since we have not seen this before, this is going to be unique. We're going to insert it inside the row. However, if we have seen this number at this row before, then that is no longer valid. So in this scenario, let's create an example scenario where we first see 5. It is not yet existent inside our set. We insert 5 into this set, right? Let's imagine that this 3 was a 5, right? So now we go to the second number and then we say, oh, okay, this is a number 5, right? Have we seen 5 before? Yes. Have we seen 5 at this row? Yes, right? So at this point, it will go to the else block, right? So that's why we can return false instantly, because we have seen it before at this row. It should not happen, right? If it does, it's no longer a valid Sudoku. There's no longer any processing for us to do because we have found the solution, right? The result here is that it is an invalid Sudoku in this case, right? So that's for the row case. We'll repeat the same thing for the column, right? Now, current car is seen at column J, okay? And the same thing. Have we seen this particular character at a at the particular column, essentially, right? If it doesn't contain in that particular column, let's go ahead and add it, right? Seen insert column. Else, if we have seen this character at this particular column before, then we know it's invalid because we cannot have any repetition, right? So let's clear it out. So now, last but not least, the box, right? So let's go and create it. So the box. So current character is seen in box. So just to get the coordinates, I'll just use the row divided by 3 and the column divided by 3, right? And then here is the same thing. If seen contains box. If it does not contain it, let's go ahead and insert it, right? Else, if you've seen it before, return false, right? So we have checked for all the 3 conditions, the row, the column, and box, right? Once this nested for loop is done, then we can return true, right? Because in any scenario where the board is invalid, it would have been caught in any of these conditional statement here, check bar of the row, column, and box, right? If it does not fall into the return false statement in any of these, then we know for sure it is a valid Sudoku board, right? So let's go ahead and run this and check if we got it right. Hopefully, yep. Let's try and submit this. Boom, there we go. That's the solution for determining whether this board is a valid Sudoku board. We utilize set to help us out to identify the unique character existed in this board in the row, column, and box, right? So, uh, like I mentioned earlier, when we use set as type string here, it gives us a lot of flexibility. As we can see here, we use the same set for the row, column, as well as the box, right? The only thing that's different is basically the string values, right? And obviously the row number values. But if you really think of it, it's actually this character here that makes it really unique. In the event where I change this to row, right, which is exactly as the same string here, this would fail, right? Because I and j, for example, is at index 0, 0. So this row here I can be 0, j can be 0, right? And this will cause it to conflict, right? We may have seen this but same string, although we are checking for the column, but because this word here is row, we will have an issue, right? So what makes it unique is actually the string value type here, the difference here, right? Row, column, box. So basically you can put anything like this, right? As long as all of the strings are different, right? And we can uniquely identify it, then that's the way we can be sure that we can identify that it only exists in like row, column, and box as well. So just want to point it out there, right? If we use it as like another approach, I guess I should say, like if we want to use a particular row set and column set and box set, that is also possible. But so how you go about it, I assume you can do something like this: column set string as well as box, I suppose. The reason why I didn't go ahead with this one is because then we need to use three set rather than just one set, right? So yeah, I think that is particularly interesting that we can actually just use one for all three cases. But the tricky thing is just make sure the string value here, we are really checking for what we are intending to. So for this case, we are checking column, hence we are using like a very unique special way to know that this is column, right? So if you have any typo, like for example, if you use the same one as row or basically seen box with the same type of string here, the value string here, we will probably get an error. So that's the downside of using string value. We have to be very careful with the value of the string that we're going to put inside the set here, right? But other than that, yeah, just one set to help us uniquely identify the value in the row, columns, and box. And that's it. That's how we identify whether this board is a unique or valid Sudoku. Sorry. But yeah, if you guys find this kind of video helpful, feel free to subscribe to this channel. I'm going to put out more content as I move along. And as always, thank you very much for watching and still supporting this channel. Take care and bye bye.